Welcome to Cooking Time. I'm David Martone, Executive Chef at Classic Thyme Cooking School. We're here today with the staff from TV 34 in Scotch Plains. Boy, we have a great show for you. I'm going to make you some old-fashioned stuff that my mom used to make, along with a couple of soups. We're going to start out with some chicken stock and two different soups. I'm going to get a whole bunch of stuff going at the same time, and I'm going to get you all confused. Then I'm going to explain what we're doing, so just bear with me because we have lots of stuff to saute. So I have to get my chicken soup going. I'm going to saute some ingredients. We call these our aromatics. We have some celery, some carrot, and some onion. Crank up the heat a little bit here. Whenever we saute aromatics, we want to make sure that we don't color anything. We don't want anything too dark. So that's going to be for our chicken soup, which we have to actually make some chicken stock first. But we want to get those sauteing so we can have everything done in the time we have. Now I'm going to get some stuff going for our potato leek soup, which I'm going to start in this pot with a little bit of butter melting. And we've got some wonderful leeks that we've got cut already. We've trimmed the tops off. I just need to slice them up. We've washed the leeks, and you have to be very, very careful with leeks because they're very, very sandy. They're grown in a very sandy environment, and washing them is critical. A close friend of mine, Annie Casal, who's written wonderful, wonderful books, once told me a story about a leek dish she made when she first got married, and her father-in-law was there. And a wonderful old Italian gentleman, and he said to her, "Anna, this was a very good, no make it for me no more." And he was trying to be nice to her and say that the leeks weren't washed properly. So what happened was all of the gritty sand from the leeks got in the dish. So every time this poor guy bit into something, it was like chewing a mouthful of tiny pearls. Just a very, very uncomfortable, unpalatable situation. So we've got our aromatics. We want to get them nice and tender. We've got our leeks cooking slowly. And in with those leeks, we're going to add some potatoes. Now, when you cut and slice potatoes, you have to be very, very careful because they will blacken. They oxidize very quickly like apples do. So when we cut potatoes, we put them right in water so we can control the oxidation. I'm going to put those potatoes right in with the leeks. We'll get that cooking nicely. Next up, I want to get our chicken stock going because this is the base for everything that we do. We're using some chicken parts. We have some wonderful chicken wings that we were able to get. Lots of times I can find backs and necks in the supermarket. I have some celery. Now, we don't have to be too careful about how large we cut the celery or the onion because we're going to fish all of this out before we actually use this stock. And no, I wasn't really looking while I was working, and you shouldn't do that at home. But I've been doing this long enough that I can keep control of my fingers, and I always start with 10 and end with 10. But when you're cutting at home, you need to be focused, and especially when you're doing things that roll like an onion, you have to place your knife, concentrate on what you're doing, nice and slow, just like this. Never taking your eyes off, because when somebody distracts you, that's when it's an accident just waiting to happen. I'm peeling down this onion. You don't have to be too careful when you're doing the stock. Sometimes we even leave part of the skin on. It's not a big problem. And this is going to be sliced up into rather large pieces. I like making stock because you don't have to be too careful about peeling things and being too critical. You want to make sure they're washed carefully. You want to make sure you always use wonderful, wonderful ingredients. But as far as carrots, when I use carrots, we scrub them down. We chop off the stem and the root end. And then as far as the cutting, I'm just going to chop this up in rather rough pieces. Hopefully they won't all roll off my board. Don't put too much carrot in because carrot is a natural sweetener, and you don't want your stock being too sweet. Now we put some water. Of course, we splash it all over everything else. Raise up our heat. Very, very critical when you're making chicken stock. You have to be oh so careful never to get in here. Once it's all in the pot, we push everything around just to make sure that it's covered with water. We're going to throw a couple of parsley stems in. Don't even need the leaves. We're going to save those leaves for when we do something fine with them later. You never ever stir the stock. You always start the stock with cold water, never hot water, and again, never stir it because you're going to get a lot of impurities. Some will rise to the surface, others will sink to the bottom, and constant stirring will just make your stock very, very cloudy, and we want to try and avoid that. We have our aromatics for the chicken soup going nicely, as well as our leek. That leek is sauteing up nicely with the potato. Now our potato leek soup needs to be creamy. We can accomplish that several different ways. What we're going to do today is a technique called sange. Sange means that we're going to thicken this up by making sort of a roux. A roux is equal parts of fat and flour, a fat and a starch. So the technique sange, you simply take your flour, you could even use some cornstarch, and after you've sauteed something in a fat, which here we've used butter, we're stirring in some flour. That flour is going to mix with the fat that we've got incorporated here, and it'll create a natural roux. Now when we put our liquid in, we have a natural thickening agent in with the roux. Now remember, the base for everything we're doing here is the chicken stock, and it's oh so important to make a good stock. Now I've got some stock that we've already made. You can see the wonderful color on this. We make this up in big batches and then we freeze it in pint and quart containers, which is what I recommend for people to do at home. Even if you're cooking up a couple of chicken breasts, bone them out, have a little tiny pot of stock going. At the end, even if you get a pint or a quart, it's one more dish that's so easy for you to make if you've got this in the freezer. When I was a little boy growing up in Jersey City, my mom made chicken soup from freshly killed chickens. Let me just put some of this wonderful stock in here. This is our potato leek.